For more on this latest Battle of Ontario, we welcome in Brian Hayes, host of Overdrive on TSN Radio, and Craig Button joining us remotely, our Director of Scouting. Gentlemen, in Ottawa, the spotlight on DJ Smith has grown significantly since the addition of Jacques Martin. Meanwhile, Sheldon Keefe was pretty heated at practice yesterday. Some choice words for the Leafs. So between these two, Craig, who has more work cut out for them?
I think Sheldon Keefe and the Toronto Maple Leafs. I mean, we know that the injuries have hurt the Toronto Maple Leafs defense, but despite those injuries and in spite of those injuries, and if everybody was healthy, it would still be a challenge for them. Because that blue line, with respect to what the Toronto Maple Leafs goals are, compete for a Stanley Cup, not realistic. So when you look at what Sheldon Keefe is trying to do with a blue line that isn't good enough to compete for a Stanley Cup, and now with the injuries, it just exacerbates the problem. I think that the work for for Sheldon Keefe is far greater than the work for DJ Smith.
Yeah, I'm going to go with DJ Smith here, Rod, because I think of the expectations for both teams, right? The Maple Leafs and Sheldon Keefe, they're supposed to show their improvement come playoff time. DJ Smith and the Ottawa Senators, they got to get there. They've got to be improving early into the season. They're a 500 club. They've had a soft schedule and a lot of home games, and they're dealing with injuries as well. Now, Thomas Chabot and goaltending has been a big problem, right? A coach's best friend is a quality goaltender. They are not getting that in Ottawa. I'm not convinced it will return. I know Forsberg's been better the last couple of games, but I think in Ottawa you got situations in terms of what's happening on the ice and also pressure for DJ Smith off the ice. The fans have turned on him. There's a new owner there. There's a new man in charge in Steve Staios. Neither of those two gentlemen brought him in. I think there's a lot of pressure on DJ Smith.
Well, you talked about defensive performance. Both of you did. I want to follow up on that. Both teams have battled injuries and underperformance. Ottawa ranking 18th in goals against per game at 325. Toronto just behind them in 19th at 332. So which defensive group, Brian, do you believe in more?
Well, we're not talking about the late 70s Montreal Canadiens here with either team, right, Ron? Like, this is a struggle, I think, for both teams at this point, especially considering the injury to Chabot in Ottawa. That's why I would lean Maple Leafs here, because they have injuries, but a couple of those players will return in Giordano and Liljegren, and their top three defensemen are intact and have been intact. That's Morgan Rielly, TJ Brodie, and Jake McCabe. And I think of all the defensemen on both teams, the most impactful player early in the season has been Morgan Rielly. He's been great so far. TJ Brodie is exactly what he always is. It's not flashy, but it's predictable. I think the top three veterans being healthy, I would go with the Maple Leafs.
Well, I'm not going with the Maple Leafs. Again, we talk about expectations. I mean, it's amazing now that the expectations for the Toronto Maple Leafs to contend for a Stanley Cup, to be better come playoff time, it gets hidden with the Ottawa Senators. Yes, the expectations for the Ottawa Senators were much better and they should take steps forward. I believe that they could and they should. But give me a break. The Toronto Maple Leafs now are going to hide behind that and they have a better defense? They've won one playoff round in whatever amount of years they've done it with a defense group that's largely remained relatively the same. And they're not going to go any further with this defense group. I don't care if they're healthy. I don't care what they're doing. Not good enough. That's a defensive group. I don't have any faith in terms of meeting expectations, which is to change the playoff outcomes.
So I think both of you are saying that at this particular point in time, they can't be counting on Guy Lapointe or Larry Robinson or Serge Savard in their prime.
No, they could probably use them at this point for sure.
By the way, 5 of the Leafs' last 6 games have gone to overtime or a shootout. Their last regulation win came almost 3 weeks ago. Brian Hayes, Craig Button, thanks for this, guys.